In this video, we'll be taking a close look at the inventory module within Dynamics 365 Business Central and highlight some of the features and functionality that are included. To access your inventory item list, you'll go to Sales, Items, and this will show the item master for all inventory items, non-inventoried items, and service items that exist inside Business Central. This list shows one inventory item for each record. And in the fact set over here on the right, you can see some basic details regarding the item, such as cost, standard price, inventory quantity that's available and on hand, and so forth. Let's take a closer look at one of our items. I'm going to use my search box up here at the top, and I'm going to search for the Airpot Lite, which is one of our coffee machines. I can see I have an on-hand quantity of 16 for this item. When I click on that, I'm going to be taken to my item card, which has fast tabs, just like a lot of the other pages inside Business Central that house all of the inventory item information. In the general fast tab, you'll see the item number as well as the description, as well as the inventory type that specifies if this item is going to be tracked in quantities and cost in a general ledger asset account, or if it's going to be a service type item or a non-inventoried item whereby quantities don't matter as much. We also have the base unit of measure, which is the measure that the item is tracked in. So these are pieces. So we would see 14 pieces or 16 pieces are in inventory. We also have the ability to track other units of measure that we purchase and sell this item in. So you can see a piece is equal to 1. However, if we purchase this in a pack, we would have 12. If we purchased or sold it in a pallet, it would include 36 individual pieces. Each of these can have their own dimensions for shipping integration to send to the carriers to get proper rate quoting. All our items in Business Central can also be classified with a category code. This is one of our commercial models, so we have this classification set. This allows us to group and report on these items differently. In addition, over here on the right, I've got a picture of the item as well as some marketing text that can be used on our e-commerce sites. This is kind of the description that you would typically see kind of formatted in HTML on e-commerce sites, as well as attributes that provide additional information related to the model. Now, if you get very detailed with your categories, you can actually link attributes to the different categories so that when you categorize an item, all of the attributes that are required for that item will set up automatically, and you'll just have to specify the values for the particular item. Scrolling down, we've also got some fields that show us the quantity on hand and the quantity on purchase order. Remember, this is the high-level item card, so this is not specific to any inventory locations. This is the aggregate of quantity on hand across all locations and purchase order across all locations. More on that in just a few minutes. Down below, we also have some cost and pricing. So we have different costing methods inside Business Central: FIFO, LIFO, specific, average, and standard. We also have different posting groups that determine which revenue and cost of goods sold account will be utilized whenever we purchase or sell this item to customers and vendors. Business Central has a very granular pricing and costing engine whereby you can set up all of your prices and costs at an individual customer vendor level or at customer and vendor group levels. So if I look at my sales prices for this item, I can see that I have all customers get a single piece for $349. Retail customers get a single piece at $269. And then I also have another customer price group for distributors, whereby they would get this item for $215, or if they purchased it in a pallet of 36, they would get it for $7,164. All of these can also have quantity breaks. So if they purchase 10, they get to the next quantity break, and they can also have effective start and end dates for this pricing to take effect. So I can keep a historical price catalog per item as well. If I scroll down to the replenishment fast tab, I can see where I can set my replenishment parameters for this item. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose a replenishment system. Am I purchasing this from a vendor? Am I producing it with the manufacturing module? Or am I simply assembling it with our light manufacturing module or kitting module? So I'm going to choose purchasing here. I can set up lead times in here, generic lead times for planning purposes. I can set up a default or a generic vendor for this item for the sake of replenishment. And then if I was going to do a production, then I could specify if I'm making to stock or I'm making to order on this item, as well as any of the other production or assembly parameters, such as what's the BOM number, what's the flushing method for the components of this item, if there's any scrap, and then my assembly policy as well. If I look at the planning parameters for the item, I can also see that I have different policies for planning. So if I want to deal with fixed quantities, such as safety stock levels or min maxes, I've got a couple options there. If I have an item that is completely demand driven, I can have an order planning system where I need physical demand in order to trigger the reorder policy. Or I can utilize a combination of both with lot for lot planning that takes into account the time element as well as sales forecast demand and current levels. Lastly, under item tracking, I have a very flexible feature here for tracking lot numbers and serial numbers. So I can set up different item tracking profiles on an item by item basis to determine if I want to track those lot numbers and serial numbers, or if I just want to track a number and tag it to the transaction when an item goes out the door. So this gives me the flexibility to be completely bound by serial numbers and lot numbers, meaning every transaction internally and externally must pull from that serial lot number. Or I can be fairly lax and I can just track a number when a certain transaction happens. Like a sales order that's going out the door, I can just track an outbound number that was shipped from inventory. Lastly, all the parameters that I've gone over have been on the item card, meaning this is the master record keeper for the item itself. If I have multiple locations, and I can go into the warehousing module and I can look at what are called stock keeping units. Stock keeping unit is the item location specific record. So if we're looking at our AirPot Lite here, if I look at the related stock keeping units, you can see there's my master item number over here on the list, and then here's the location code that's specified. So I can see I have a quantity 6 at my east location and a quantity of 10 at my main location. So if I want to go ahead and see some specific information related to the east location, all of those parameters that we just went over on the item card, you have the ability to set those planning parameters as well as replenishment parameters on a site-by-site or location-by-location basis. Thank you for watching our inventory overview video. Please stay tuned for more distribution and warehouse-specific videos.